Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PH Vote Challenge Davao'S The Leader I Want. We have a jam-packed schedule for you today, and we're excited to hear from our presenters this afternoon. PH Vote, The Leader I Want is brought to us in partnership with our official data connectivity partner, Radius Telecommunications. Our official partners for PH Vote Challenge Davao'S The Leader I Want are the Philippine Women's College of Davao, the University of the Immaculate Conception, and Isaac Ateneo. Page Vote Challenge is Rappler's initiative to get more people to register and vote for the right leaders our country needs in next year's presidential elections. So earlier today we had a program, a series of workshops for our citizen journalists. We had workshops on citizen journalism, videography, social media, and Move PH's projects. So one of the projects for Move PH, one of Move PH's projects is The Leader I Want. So let's start with our program. To give us the welcoming remarks. In 2005, Irene Santiago was one of the 1,000 women nominated as a group for the Nobel Peace Prize, Chair Emerita and CEO of the Mindanao Commission on Women, and convener of the National Mothers for Peace movement. She is well known internationally as a strong advocate of gender equality, experience in formal peace negotiations, having served from 2001 to 2000 with Muslims, especially women in Mindanao, has varied experiences. In the Mindanao and women, Irene initiated the Women's Peace Table, which immediately after the signing of the framework agreement by the government, and holds a master's degree in journalism from degree from the Philippine Women.
Good afternoon, everyone. And not by right. They are not aware of weddedness. But as soon as their people become no longer work. But it's not enough to be in build our power to select the leader we use. And not. Remember the lesson learned from the monkey master fable. As soon as the people become enlightened, the monkey master's tricks no longer work. And when the people use Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, watch out. These days, we all feel a massive sense of unease because we see the huge gap between who we are and the politicians who want to be our leaders. And that is why here in PwC we are starting a creativity revolution in education and in leadership. Our campaign for the kind of leader we want is called I Am ACE. A is for adaptable, C for creative, and E for ethical. We have identified three components of ethical leadership, and we call it HIP. I'm a HIP leader. Holistic, inclusive, and powerful. Holistic means everything. Inclusive means everyone. And powerful means everywhere, every time. Meaning we are using our power to do good all the time. So those who use their power to oppress, steal, lie, and cheat are not powerful. They are just evil. The partnership between Rappler and the PwC of Davao will make our collective voices emerge, amplifying these voices to the max, so that our democracy is indeed by and for the people. We are excited to start new things in PwC of Davao that will significantly contribute to what Rappler and Move PH are doing. We are launching Create TV, our own community TV channel online, which will creatively educate our young people to tell their stories and those of the communities in Davao and Mindanao. We are establishing an Institute for Governance and Ethical Leadership, which will promote our advocacy for the ACE leaders we want. Yes, believe in your power, our power, to continue to have meaningful change in our country. There are 39 million people between the ages of 18 and 35. There are 39 million of you. We need only 20 million to elect a president. The leaders we elect in 2016 and beyond will indeed be the leaders you want. On behalf of Rappler and the PwC of Davao and our partners UIC and ISEC Ateneo, welcome to this great exercise for the good of our beloved country. It's time to fly, or more appropriately, it's time to tweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Irene. That was some welcoming remarks. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm David Lozada. I'm a reporter for Rappler's Move PH. And can I see a show? Can I see who here are from the PwC of Davao? Okay, from the UIC, University of the Immaculate Conception. Wow. Okay. Anybody from the University of Mindanao? UP Mindanao. University of Southeastern Philippines? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Irene. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. She will talk about PH Vote, Rappler's The Leader I Want. Maria Ressa has been a journalist in Asia for more than 25 years, most of them as CNN's bureau chief in Manila, then Jakarta. She became CNN's lead investigative reporter focusing on terrorism in Southeast Asia and wrote Seeds of Terror, an eyewitness account of Al-Qaeda's newest center of operations in Southeast Asia. The book was the first from the region documenting the growth of the Jemaah Islamiyah and its links to Al-Qaeda. In 1987, Maria was one of the founders of independent production company Probe. In 2005, she took the helm of ABS-CBN News and Current Affairs for 6 years, managing more than 1,000 journalists for the largest multi-platform news operation in the Philippines. Her work aimed to redefine journalism by combining traditional broadcast, new media, and mobile phone technology for social change. She taught courses in politics and media for her alma mater, Princeton University, as well as in broadcasting at the University of the Philippines. Her latest book, From Bin Laden to Facebook, is part of her work as the author-in-residence and senior fellow at the International Center of Political Violence and Terrorism Research in Singapore. She was named the Southeast Asia Visiting Scholar at Core Lab at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. Despite documenting some of the worst disasters and uprisings in Southeast Asia, she believes in the goodness of human nature and in the transformative powers of media and technology. Rappler CEO and Executive Editor, Ms. Maria Reza.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to spend the afternoon with us. Thank you, Irene, for working with us on this and for helping us, for letting us come here and talk to you. I have a lot to tell you, and they're going to come from different strands, but most of all, I want you to know how much power you have and to actually use it to try to figure out what you can do differently about our world today. Remember, Facebook is something that it was created in a college dorm by folks who didn't even graduate college. Why can't we do that in the Philippines? And here's how. So, let's go. I started, let's see, okay. One more time. There. Okay. Are two things that you would not normally get together. On this side, let's start with this. That's the community of Aldab. On this side is the community of ISIS. Alam niyo ba kung ano yung ISIS? Okay, you should know because you are their target audience. And their best propaganda machine are Twitter hashtags. They post more than 200,000 pieces of social media content every day, and they get 15, 16, 17-year-olds to go join the jihad in Syria and Iraq. They use social media better than almost any organization around the world. But who beats them? So if we think about this as evil, hate, let's talk about this as love. Because the Philippines hashtag Aldab actually not only beats ISIS, it also beats most every global Twitter phenomena except for just one. And this is something Twitter said. On one day, there were 26 million tweets in one 24-hour period. And you know how it happened? People like you organized, self-organized, and they created communities like this. Every single dot on this map is a person, is an account, and is connected to someone else, just like every one of us here. So if you think about this as forces of love, forces of hate, what we're seeing play out right now, even as we're live streaming this, is a battle between love and hate, a battle between good and evil, and let's sneak in elections. A lot of our future after 2016. So I guess if Filipinos, if you can self-organize this way, imagine what you can do at your age to already determine and change the power structures of your country. That's the potential. You heard it from Irene. 39 million Filipinos are young. This will be the first social media elections that we'll have. In 2013, social media was powerful enough to drag down a candidate, but it couldn't get a candidate elected. Now, social media, your work on social media, your work organizing your family and friends can elect one. Let's pull out. So that's one strand. And we're going to go back to that. Love and hate, and good versus evil. Because sometimes the world isn't as black and white as that. Let's look at the world. So this is strand number 2. This is how many people are on the internet and how important is the internet. Something Davao actually knows. Can I just tell you how surprised I am by how organized Davao'S are on social media? Kitang-kita namin kayo. So look here, worldwide, nearly 3 billion internet users right now, but that's only 40% of the potential, right? So we still have almost 2/3 to go. 5.2 billion mobile phone users, 73% penetration on mobile phones. In the Philippines, we're only at 40%. And if you look at that, your mobile phone penetration rate is 114%. Mobile phone, right? Can you raise your hand if you do not have a mobile phone? Meron bang walang mobile phone dito? Raise your hand kung wala kang mobile phone. Parang, oo, hindi. Yes, no. So, 114%, right? Here's the other part of what it can do. And I think this is the connecting strand. These are part of a global trend. And look at the three things that are part of that. If we increase connectivity and digital literacy, this is happening all around the world, a lot in Africa. Certainly we don't want Africa to get ahead of the Philippines in terms of development, right? But this is happening. Financial inclusion. People are paying, are banking, are getting money, are finding jobs through their mobile phones. 3, that gives big data. Big data, I'll show you. The big data is similar to what you saw with all those accounts on Aldab, right? It's what happens when we pull out and we can actually see patterns and trends. How does the Philippines jumpstart? Internet, mobile phone, social media. Just those 3 things. And you know what? You, at your age, have as much power as anyone because of the internet, mobile phone, and social media. That's strand number 2. Now let's look at strand number 3, and this is about the businesses that give us the services we want. The businesses your parents, your family create, the businesses you may one day work for. What happens? What is happening now is that the businesses, big business, is changing drastically. It's called creative destruction. Before, it used to take about 20 years to build a big business, an Ayala Corp or PLDT. It used to take 20 years to get to a market cap of $1 billion. So it used to take 20 years to build a company worth $1 billion. But look over time, that 20 years has gone down to the point that as of 2012, Snapchat, hindi pa ganun kabig ang Snapchat dito sa Pilipinas. Pero it's an online app, right? A chat app. That became a $1 billion company in 2 years. And then you look at Oculus Rift. Oculus Rift is a gaming, virtual reality games. Facebook bought it. It became a $1 billion company in less than 2 years. The reason I tell you that is dream, because you can create these things. Why can Pinoys not create it, right? So that's the business part. But look at this. There's more. So those big businesses, people think if you're a big business, you're going to always be big. Hindi totoo yun. In the next 10 years, 40% of all S&P, Standard & Poor 500 companies are going to disappear. They're just going to die because people your age, are going to create companies that will make them obsolete. That's the age you live in. Eto na, software. Mark Andreessen is one of the PayPal mafia. He said software is eating the world. And look at how much the physical world is changing into the virtual world, right? Again, Davao knows this. Davao is the first smart city, an IBM smart city in the Philippines. But let's just look at some of them. Old style advertising is now Google Ads. CDs, my age, CDs were new. Now, who actually buys CDs? They get Spotify, right? Telcos. Actually, nakakaawa ang telcos because 10 years ago, 90% of their revenues come in from telephone landlines, and now that's dead. And if you're overseas, you don't use them for long-distance calls anymore, right? You use Skype. Here's the one I like. Photography to Instagram. Eastman Kodak was a $31 billion company, went bankrupt, It had all of the digital photography, all the patents for digital photography, at the same year that Instagram, with 13 people, was bought for $1.3 billion. That's insane, right? That's the world you live in. So if you can think of something you need that you can create, you can actually make a lot of money and leapfrog. Siyempre, I have to put in newspapers and television to Rappler kasi we're the first online news site in the Philippines. We're the first one that exists only in the virtual world. Pero, I'll tell you more about that. The first part of how we're to the virtual world. Ito na yun. This is what tech companies say all the time. A traditional media group, I'll tell it to you from my perspective, when I was handling ABS-CBN, if we grew linearly every year, everyone is happy, because that's all we had. That's all the option of traditional media groups. But when tech and the internet came in, growth began to look like this. Silicon Valley calls that the hockey stick. That's called exponential growth. That means you're growing 100% or 10,000% every year. For traditional media companies, if we grow 10%, that's great already, right? So that's the world we live in. And this little area of disruption, Rappler is somewhere in between because we're completely digital. We're not linear, but we're not like a tech company like Uber or Airbnb or Grab Taxi, if you have it, right? We're here. So we grow faster than my old network, CNN, than my old network, ABS. That for yourself, right? The potential is huge. You just have to imagine. The hardest thing about technology is us, the people's inability to imagine a different world. Here's our problem in the Philippines, internet access. Everyone always says this. How can we compete globally if we don't have internet? It's coming, and it's coming soon. So yes, we have our telcos, and they're struggling with it, but government is looking at TV white space. This is DOSD. The same signal that carries a television, Oxsha. Here's another one. How far? Project Loon. They basically take a huge helium balloon and send it into the skies, and it gives out internet. It gives out signal, right? Wireless internet access through this big helium balloon. It's being tested now in New Zealand and a couple of other countries. And then here's the last part, which you have, and if you have this, you can get Rappler for free. Facebook has something called internet.org. You can get it on your phone. It's free. What can you do with that? What can the country do? What can the Philippines do if we're connected? Ito yun. The impact of increasing connectivity means that we will reduce economic exclusion. What that means is that there will be, you open the world to you. You cannot just look for a job. You can not just learn here in Davao. You can take courses. You can get a job on freelancer.com, right? So Coursera, reduce economic exclusion. The second is reduce social and political exclusion. Davao is, you're actually still very lucky, but there's more that you can do, right? What can we do? Debates, information flows so fast, you can get it immediately and you can move anywhere around the world. And then the last part is what Irene talked about and why we're here. Hashtag PHVote. The May 2016 elections will change our lives. It may not feel like it. It may seem like the past, in the same way that all these companies seem like the past, but it is changing. And if you don't move to make it what you want it to be, you're squandering your power. You're just wasting the power you already have. So you can change leadership structures. You can change the way we elect leaders. You can actually work for hashtag the leader I want. That's what I want to do. That's why I'm here. That's why we set up Rappler. Those are cool, right? That's the third strand. Now, let me bring you back to the first strand, the terror. Ito yun. Now, you're thinking kasi, those are stats. But here's the fun part. Now I'm going to show you have such power. And I've terrorism spreads. In 2011, I wrote a book called From Bin Laden to Facebook. And what it showed me is that we can chart our social networks in the physical world. And if we can chart our social networks in the physical world, you can actually harness the power of those networks and you can chart the emotions. So what does that show me? It shows me that Osama bin Laden is connected to this guy, an Indonesian named Hambali, who was behind the Bali bombing. He's the operations chief. But this guy is connected to this guy, Salih Said. Siguro hindi nyo alam kung sino siya. Hindi siya ganun ka-famous. But Salih Said is the man who kidnapped Ces Drilon and the two cameramen of ABS-CBN in June of 2008. Salih Said was 18 years old when he went and picked them up from their car and brought them into the jungle. Salih Said is the son of the guy who sheltered Marwan, the guy who was killed in Mama Sapano, right? They're all connected. So you see, you can chart and map it. 2 degrees of separation. Why is that important? So, eto yun. It's important because that's your physical social network. That's your family and friends. What is social media? Social media are just your family and friends without boundaries of time and space. So think about it as your family and friends on steroids, right? And here's the stats. A normal advertising push, like if somebody's talking to you on traditional media, you listen to what they say about 14% of the time. But if somebody you know on social media tells you to go to a restaurant, to go to PWC Davao, you're 94% prone to do it. See the difference? You take your family and friends with you. So what does that mean? Here's how it spreads. You would think that when you want to spread something through a group of people that you give the message to this guy, number 10. But let me show you what happens when you give it to number 10. It stops spreading at a certain point, right? People will call that the echo chamber. So if we want to organize in the virtual world, I'm giving you now the secret to Rappler, okay? You hit number 10, number 17, and number 2, and you cascade. You organize fast. This is the way I think of social media, that what you see is the tip of the iceberg, and the tip of the iceberg, the tweet carries with it an emotion. That's your words that you put in it, right? That emotion travels through social networks, virtually, and that influences behavior. How else can ISIS recruit 15 and 16 years old and get them to go fight a jihad in Syria? How else can Al-Dab, how can that get kids like you, sorry, kids din ako, kid din ako. How can they get you to stay on Twitter and keep sharing on Twitter? That is the power of social. And here's the other part. There's another reason why you can't get off social media. And I'll tell you about that later. But let me show you how we put it into Rappler. I became a journalist before many of you were born in this room. In fact, probably before you were a thought to your parents. So I'm old-style journalist. I'm a traditional journalist. I'm a TV journalist. But that's the core of Rappler, the discipline of journalism. But what we did is we decided technology which will give that exponential growth curve, that becomes part of who we are. And here's the last part. This is why I wanted to talk to you, because you are part of Rappler. We embrace our crowd. We embrace our community, because together in this world of collaboration, we will change it for the better. This is where Rappler is, and what we do is we use social media to engage, And when we engage and you click, you get crowdsourcing. And there are many things that we're crowdsourcing right now, including getting you to register and vote. And when you crowdsource, it becomes big data. I'll show you a quick example of that after I show you how important social media is. So here's that last part. Why is social media a game changer? Because it really is the game changer, right? It gives you power, but more than that, it is changing who you are. The tipping point for social media happened in 2009, July of 2009, and this is what you can see from the graph. Why? Well, here are all the stats, right? But I want you to look at this. July of 2009 was when social media overtook pornography as the #1 activity on the web. Now, alam ko hindi naman kayo nanonood ng pornography, di ba? Pwede na rin, but you know, from the time the internet was discovered until July 2009, pornography was the #1 activity on the web, and it generated the most innovation, right? So July 2009, social media overtook pornography, and here's the reason why. And instead of a study, an academic paper, I asked a friend to do a cartoon, because when you're on social media, do you ever notice when you're on Facebook or Twitter that it's very hard to get off of it? Mildly addictive. Ganun yun kasi mildly addictive talaga siya. Stanford University did a study of students who were on social media, and they found that you have elevated levels of chemicals and hormones like, you have elevated levels of a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine causes mild addiction. It is a neurotransmitter in our brains, and it makes you feel like this, like you're taking a risk, whee, like you're having drugs, which you don't do, right? Especially not in Davao. Like you're having alcohol. And then here's the last part, a hormone called oxytocin. They discovered that when you're on social media, you have high levels of oxytocin. What is oxytocin? It's called the love hormone, the sex hormone. That's why, people feel like they're falling in love, or I know you don't do this yet because you're too young. So the love hormone, the sex hormone. When you're on social media, you have high crowdsourcing. So that's social media. Crowdsourcing, the first level of crowdsourcing and Rappler. So click how you feel on every stories of the day according to mood. But that flow is important. It's up to 80% of how as people make decisions in our lives is not based on what, based on how we feel. I find that for used to think, it's rational. This is the most emotional country in the world. The least emotional country is Singapore. So you have an idea. Now let's talk about big data. This is unstructured data, big data, not quite yet, but I want to show it to you because this is not a Rorschach test. These are individual people's tweets. So these are Twitter maps, and this shows you a God's eye view of how we move through society, what things move through society. So #Japan is a map from 2011 during the earthquake and the Fukushima reactor incident. You remember that? Huge earthquake. The Japanese behave the same way Filipinos behave during crisis. We clump around sources of information, and that's normally news and government. Now, if you have a social media account, if you have credibility, you can be one of the ones people clump around, right? This hashtag GOP is the last US presidential elections. That's millions of Americans tweeting, and it shows you how divided they were between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. They didn't know who they were going to vote for. I would love to actually do a Twitter map of Duterte to see where you can see politics and how we decide. This is what a revolution looks like on Twitter. And you can see that the nodes, those little groups, are much smaller than Japan because they're fighting a government. And finally, this is hashtag Syria. That's where ISIS is. This is 16 months into the civil war between President Bashar al-Assad and the rebels, and you can see how disjointed it is. Let's bring it to the Philippines. And I want to show you 3 things that show you what impact you've already had on our country. Hashtag Million People March is August 2013. One Facebook post took 7 days to get 100,000 people in Luneta Park protesting against corruption. PDAF, the Priority Development Assistance Fund, right? One Facebook post. Now, when you actually go there, our teams were there, it's kind of boring because it was the first internet-driven protest. And when you go there, there was no organizer, no stage, no program. So, medyo boring siya. Pero you can see, this is what it looked like on Twitter. Ang gulo, di ba? Our role as journalists, I think, is to give those different communities the information they need to become communities of action. That's our role. What's yours? Right? You can form those communities. So this is what it looked like. And over time, this began to crystallize into communities. Eto na, hashtag Shake Drill. This happened in Metro Manila, not in Davao. But it would be interesting to me to see how Davao moves because you guys are just so active on social media. But what happened at Shake Drill, this was an earthquake drill for the 7.2 quake, which is supposed to kill tens of thousands of Filipinos, right? What would we do? Well, we drilled during the day, and look at this. It was number 1 in the Philippines, number 3 globally, but 2.1 billion impressions from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is when the drill was happening. And we're doing the same exact thing now, which is we were live streaming what was happening. You're conversing in the virtual world. I think of the virtual world, if you saw the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception, diba in Inception, they go into the dream world to figure out, to change the real world. So we go into social media to change the real world. We're seeing it happening. This I love, because Rappler did play a little bit of a role here, but you did all the work. Hashtag Mary Jane. First, if you remember, this is a woman who was sentenced to death in Indonesia. She's a Filipina. Nobody was paying attention to her. Our journalist, who's Pinay, who speaks Bahasa Indonesia, went and did her story. And it looked like she could be innocent. She could be innocent. It was that. And from March 31 all the way to April 29, so less than a month, you could see how this hashtag evolved, right? It went from hashtag Mary Jane to hashtag Save Mary Jane on April 26. The Move guys, our team from Move PH, came to me and they said, Maria, can we work with change.org? The Move guys are civic engagement, right? They said, can we work with change.org and see if we can help save her life? This was Saturday night before the Tuesday she was supposed to be executed. And I'm an older journalist. In my world, it wouldn't have been possible to save her life. It just didn't work that way before. So I told them, why try? Why try? It's too late. She's going to die. My 20-somethings, whom I love, and they are powering much of Rappler, they tried, and they helped bring you in, and they really did save a life. So, hashtag Save Mary Jane. At 1 a.m. on Tuesday, it became hashtag Mary Jane Lives. And here's the funny thing. This is what it looked like, diba? Look at the difference between hashtag Million People March and hashtag Save Mary Jane. And you can actually look at all the different accounts. Alam nyo, the most influential account is this, Mr. Banat. He's a Pinoy account who really just tweets sayings, quotes. And he was the most influential account to save Mary Jane, temporarily. It's still ongoing. Rappler, Star, a lot of the other, Rappler Indonesia, we're all here. But just because you don't have a lot of followers doesn't mean you don't have a lot of power. The one who actually, so I'll go to Osama bin Laden's death. The tipping point for the rest of the world to know that Osama bin Laden was killed was not a news group. It was an IT guy who was the neighbor of the house they attacked, of bin Laden's house. And he only had 700 followers on Twitter. He tweeted what he saw, and that was the tipping point. So again, the power we have together, nothing beats it. I want to quickly show you the tool that we use to monitor our communities. And you're free to use it because we built it so you could use it for your own accounts. The first 500 tweets come out. See, yeah, go ahead. Charlie, can you go to Reach? This will show you the communities. Now, no, keep going back. Yes, there you go. Can you type in hashtag PHVote? I hope you're tweeting, because if you're not, that thing will appear there. It'll take the last 500 tweets, and it's now pulling them down, and then it'll show us how our communities are connected. Okay, sino ba? Oh, wow, PWC Davao is the most influential account. Sige, zoom in. Let's see who's connected to whom. Go ahead. Whoop. It looks like it's hiccuping. Okay. Sige, click. Give me the circle next to PWC Davao. Oh, you can see, diba? Sige, who's that? Davao Catholic Herald. Oh, ako. There, I was there. Sino pa? Irene, there you are. Let's see that. Sige, click. Rappler is there, but PWC Davao beats us. Julius. I saw Julius here before. So you can see how we're connected in the virtual world. Let's go back. And I'm going to end this because I've taken too much of your time. Davao Catholic Herald. Go ahead. The link is www.reach-social.com. This is how we keep track of our communities. When you're building your own community, go ahead and use it. We give you the first 500. Let's go to can you please click, and let's go back to the presentation. Thank you. Next. Now I'm going to just end with this. We've shown you politics. We've shown you how it can be used in different ways. Let me see. Click. Now I want to show you disaster risk reduction, because all of us are in this together, and because we have an average of 20 typhoons every year, right? So imagine when you can do this, we can harness bottom up and combine it with top down. That's what Project Agos is. If you've heard me speak, I speak about this all the time, because I think it can help save lives, and it already has. This is a collaboration between Move PH, Ateneo, now PWC. It is a collaboration of as many Filipinos as we can find, of you, I hope, and even the Australian government has actually helped give us the ability to train others, and that is to help us deal with extreme emergencies. This is just one instance. This is Typhoon Glenda, I think. You can look here, right? Crowdsourcing help. So people are posting on this tech platform that we built. You can use Twitter, Facebook, or SMS, Globe and Smart, and they post it, and it gets posted on a map. And here you see, may babaeng nagle-labor sa ibabaw ng bubong. The woman is in labor, and she's about to give birth, and then you can see very transparently that she's rescued by the Red Cross, and she gives birth in the hospital. We can watch in real time. It makes government accountable to the people, and it allows people to help other people. it allows people to help other people. I'm going to leave you with this last 1-minute video that was the very first time. Here's the last part. In this new world, no one knows what it will look like. No one. And so don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay, because those mistakes will push you to grow.
Typhoon Glenda, known internationally as Ramasun, intensifies as it moves closer
This
to the
is all
Bicol summer
crowdsourced,
area.
right?
Tuesday.
That's the path of the storm. Ordinary people plotted these things. And the government gave us the data that showed you where the flooding is happening. Government is there also. Davao knows this better. You should be clapping for yourself, because that's all the crowd. That is us. So again, Davao knows this better than anyone, that it's not just government that does it, that the people push government at the same time, that they get the government they deserve. So we're going to end with just this. Remember, love and hate, good and evil. Let's take our dub and let's move it into elections. I challenge you, go to phvote.rappler.com. If you haven't registered to vote, you'll find out where you can register to vote. That will give you the data you need. If you can't vote yet, start to build your community. Because your age, the virtual world, is your community. You live there, and you're connected to a global audience. Dream, dream big, and recreate a better world. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. Can you please, for the question and answer, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions or clarifications to Maria. We can give out around three questions. Anyone? No one?
Okay, I bored you. I really bored you.
There's a mic in the center aisle. Yes?
Don't you guys want to know what Duterte said last night? to
Yeah,
us?
we
No, I'm
interviewed
teasing.
Duterte
Joke, joke.
I across of Davao College. Well, I want to ask the future projects or future to publish. Will maybe each individual who will be running for that particular position, what are their information and experiences, so that it is part of this whole thing, which is the leader I want. Through that, people will know, this particular person is the one for this position. Yes, that's all.
Yes. A quick answer is yes, the data is there. This is what will also set this elections apart from the rest, is that we can take data and give you directly what you need. So yes, it's coming, and hopefully it'll help you make the right choices. One of the things, for example, we were looking at are all of our legislators. Anyone who was a legislator has a track record of how many bills they filed.
Yes.
Like, for example, did you know Grace Poe filed more than 71 bills in one term, which was actually more than all the bills filed by President Aquino when he was senator and all the time he was a senator. Again, I only say that because these things popped out, right? To be honest, I don't know yet who I'm going to vote for, but I'm looking very hard.
Okay. Thanks for that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions for Maria? Yes, please.
Here.
There's like too much light. Okay, so I was actually wondering, because as a citizen of the Philippines and the 2016 elections is coming up, I feel like I wanted to vote. I want to vote. I want to exercise my right to vote. But right now, I don't feel like there's anybody who is running as a presidential who deserves my vote or has the right platform wherein he's the type of leader that I want or she's the type of leader I want, who I would believe or who I can see who can change the Philippines, who can make the Philippines a better country. So I want to know your opinion about it.
Thank you. Well, first of all, the generation ahead of you felt similarly. I've heard that in a lot of our presidential elections. And the phrase, I chose the lesser of evils, is always there, right? So it's a tough call for you. You have a lot of power, right? But if you don't like anyone, do you just opt out? If you opt out, then you let someone else determine where your life is going to go. My answer to that always is, I make sure that I make up my mind, given the statistics, given the facts, right? And then I vote for who I want. Even if they're not the ideal choice, here's the last part. Take responsibility for the fact that the ideal choice is not running. It's our fault. We didn't create the conditions for other people who we may want to run, right? It's not your fault, it's my generation's fault. You're too young. But I have great hope that your generation will fix a lot of the things we messed up. I was going to say more colorful language, but and it is because you have technology on your side. That's why you have to understand technology. The short answer is, regardless if no one inspires you, vote, because that is an exercise of your power. Not voting doesn't help any way at all. Having said that, I voted for some people I wish I didn't vote for from the last elections given their performance, but that is what a democracy is, right? So I would say right now, you haven't asked me this, but I will tell you, everybody's talking about Duterte. Is he going to run for president or not? Is he going to run as a substitute or not? This is coming out on Rappler tomorrow, and sana you can shut off he was very brutally frank and brutally honest, brutal. At one point I asked him, I said, for such a decisive man, why are you so indecisive about running for president? And then lots of other things that I think he's going to. I'm crossing the lines yata. I'm gonna write it anyway tomorrow, but his responses, and you'll see them, because he will change things. And if it changes, the status quo is not. And stop do about it because you have power.
One more.
Good afternoon. Of leader, the people majority wants, but for
Thank you. Have advocacies of move. I've been a journalist. This coming up is my third year. I was a journalist before you were born. Before many of you were born. News, corruption. So Number two is disaster is going to fall apart very soon, and we have to help ourselves. Number three is something we have called the hashtag Hunger Project. And this is social inclusion, right? Why is it that as our growth rate is increasing, the incidents of hunger are not decreasing? And we're doing this in collaboration with the Department of Social Welfare and Development. And then the last one is gender. This is where Irene and I come together. I was in Beijing when Hillary Clinton congratulated Irene for organizing the Beijing Women's Conference in 1995. So it was very cool. Who am I looking for? We all moan and say, why don't we have a Lee Kuan Yew? Why don't we have a leader who will be competent and be morally upright and not steal? I'm looking for someone smart, competent, who understands how to exercise leadership. Leadership is tough because you have to make decisions before you know what all of the facts are. So there's something that is, you do need to look at the person. People stop looking at personalities. You look at track record and issues. I'm 40% there.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to those. On social media, we're having a conversation right now. Please follow the hashtags PH, hashtag IMAs, and hashtag the leader. We have some people from Twitter who tweeted very good reflections about the talks, and we'll give them specially designed. First one, Ramil Martinez. No matter how aware we are with this, where are you? Go here. Ramil, yes, there. Very nice. Issue. Hashtag PH Vote Davao. Okay. Archipelago in the Philippines. Okay, did you enjoy the presentation? Yes? It's good, di ba? Saba Bajau. It's one of the ethnic groups in the Philippines. Okay, now Maria and Irene talked about the power of the youth, how you have the tools right now to choose the leader we want for the next elections. Now we will have a panel with youth leaders in Davao to talk about how to engage the youth in creative leadership. Okay? So it will be moderated by our Rappler CEO and Executive Editor, Ms. Maria Reza. Please join us again. And we have, for the first panelist, we have Ms. Stella Estremera, the Sunstar Editor-in-Chief for Davao. Let's give her a round of applause. Ma'am. We have Leia Lisette Aying from the UP Mindanao. She is the USG chair. We also have PWC's SSC chair, Nadza Darimbang. She's here. Yes, and from the University of the Immaculate Conception, Miss J. Ann Peteros. Please join them on stage.
Why don't we Why don't I start by giving each of you the mic? Take 5 minutes each to tell us what you think about where we are today and how it affects you. We'll start, since you're closer to my age group than there. No, teasing. Sun, start.
Yeah, actually, taking off from what we've been discussing earlier with Miss Maria Reza here, we know so well how connected we are, except that you have to realize as youth that in a world where it's so noisy already, nandun, nag-iisa ka lang sa kwarto mo, pero ang ingay dahil ang dami mong kausap, you have to focus on your message. Dahil it will come out that habang tumatanda kayo and make your name, you will realize that the people who will rule or who will have influence will be the people who can tell their story best. Because we are at an age wherein everybody is telling their own story. So i-direct natin yan with a deliberate attention on how you behave in social media, what you share in social media, para magkaroon ng kabuluhan naman itong na-generate natin na free access to the information all over the world. Yun lang po.
In terms of how you deal with change right now, how do you deal with change?
We just have to go with the flow. Understand everything, learn everything. So nung syempre, 1 year older daw ako sa kanya in journalism. Anyway, so I'm one of the supposed to be dinosaurs. I was using typewriters. But when in 1994, internet came to Davao City with the only internet cafe, Weblink. Ganon, na-remember pa Weblink.
I remember.
I learned HTTP. Kumbaga, kailangan So ngayon, medyo naiiwan na ako dahil sabay-sabay na sila, marami na. Pero at least when I see the script, I can understand what's going on. Hindi natin ma-afford, lalong-lalo na kayo at the age we're in, you came in, complicated na siya. Masaya kami, we learned from the ABCs, from the typewriter to the IBM with the daisy wheel. So we recognize the technology there. Kayo, you just have to keep on learning. Anyway, nakikita naman natin sa kabataan ngayon that they are really, really, they can absorb a lot.
Fantastic. I'm gonna give you the mic.
Ayun, good afternoon. So I'm also a student representative from my school, UP Mindanao. So where we are now, I think initially the role of the youth today is most especially to gather as much experiences and learn to voice out what they experience on the ground. Because it's very important that what we voice out is actually what we experience. So that your initiative also becomes from the ground and with sincerity. So after knowing things, after experiencing things, the role of the youth elevates to how they take the initiative to actually do something about what's happening. So, yun, na-mention ng ating mga kasama dito na we have a lot of tools in our hands. For example, we have the internet, we have Twitter, we have Facebook. It's up to us to actually make use of these technologies to voice out what we experience so that our leaders in the future will actually know the experience on the ground. So I think most especially, our power really is to know what is happening on the ground and, try and forward it to the leaders.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm from the Philippine Women's College of Davao. Well, for me, it's important for us youth to be involved in every situation, knowing that we are in a country where there's good, there is an evil, there is also good things that is happening. But right now, as the speaker a while ago said, that there are several means in which we can address the problems that we have here in the Philippines. But right now, as a youth, of course, our main concern is how to get involved and how to fix these situations and problems that we have here in the Philippines. Although it's very difficult for us, but I think there are several means, although it's just simple or it's small, but those small things, if we accumulate this and gather all of this, I guess this could be turned into a bigger solution to fix all the problems that we have here. So from the social medias, from the Twitter, the Facebook. So I guess this is also a good foundation and training ground for us to at least help the community that we have here. That's all.
Hi, sorry with my voice. I am Jayan Sipetaros and I'm a representative from University of Immaculate Conception. And what I have been a volunteer for many years for the young people, but that volunteerism that I have is for the church. Well, then I have noticed for many years I've been with them. I knew what they want. I knew their interests. But what I have noticed is that just this, alam mo yun, yung karon lang ay for many years na involved ko with them, karon lang ko na enlightened na there is a thing that us church yes, we pray a lot, but I think that prayer necessitates action. Those kinds of enlightenment and reflections that we have necessitates action in order for this change to happen in our society. So I guess that's all I can say.
You know, it's so interesting because I realized that there are women on the stage and no men. So we will, please, one man will stand up to actually give a male perspective from us. But before we go to our male perspective, I want to ask our young ladies, are you afraid of anything right now? What are you afraid of?
I'm okay. I guess when I have discovered that there are bad people in this world, like really, really, really bad people, I think it's so difficult to to like to tell the truth. Like you want to give out your voice, like what you really want to say, because you are afraid that these people will, let's say, kill you or whatever like that. So yes, karon lang, seriously, Maria Reza, like I just realized that how could this world have such kind of people, like really, really blackened souls like that. So I guess it's so difficult and it's so fearful to really have this change right now. So I guess that's my fear.
I guess for me, what fears me the most are those person who doesn't realize what to do in a serious situation. Because as you can see, being a leader is not that easy, especially if you are in the midst or in the middle of dealing with people who have this certain opinion and another person will have certain opinion also. So it's very difficult to deal with those different type of person. It is also one of my fears myself. Of course, I have different attitude, and also I have different fears in me that that really trigger me to do something. But yet, I guess all I can do for facing all of these fears that I have is, I guess, to pray. But in the end, um, if all of us really could understand each other, well, it wouldn't lead to any chaos at all. That's all.
For me, to begin with, it's very easy for
Leader.
end of day, and we actually might be heard. So yun lang po.
Thank you, thank you. And we have to hear, what are you afraid of?
Seriously, we are afraid of lawyers. No, it's serious. it's based on experience, you know. Anyone can, of course, when you're in the print, it's easier to catch you for libel or sue you for libel because they have the newspaper, even if there's nothing malicious about it. But you have to prove it in court that there's nothing malicious, so you have to pay the lawyer. So what we are always saying is don't mind the libel, be afraid of the lawyer.
That's actually very connected. No, we need to have the courage to speak out, and when you do have the courage to speak out, then you move into the realm of journalism where you could be sued. Something we haven't talked about. I want to ask because we have
a Christian next to a Muslim. Are these issues that are, how do you deal with these in your communities? How does the national debate affect you?
So actually, that's a great question because before I decided to run as Supreme Student as a president of the Supreme Council in the Philippine Women's College of Davao, I had this difficulty on thinking if it's really right for me to run as a president, thinking that I am in an institution where the majority students are Christians while we are in a minority numbers. But I guess it doesn't really matter. What matter is how you would lead your constituents, how you would lead your co-students. But I guess right now, I'm in a situation where I need to understand what are the practices and beliefs of this religion, my religion, and the other religions. Because you wouldn't understand others if you wouldn't try to fit in. It's like I had said a while ago, just go with the flow. Um, you don't need you don't need to fit in if you don't want to. It's just that you need to act naturally. If you don't feel to, then say it. Don't just keep it yourself, but voice it out. So in this type of situation that I am here in Philippine Women's College of Davao, I guess the overall managing the school, it's just all right. So no problems at all. Even though they are small, but I think I can manage it. But having myself as a Muslim is not a problem at all.
Have you felt, any of the three of you felt discrimination either for your religion or your gender? Before we go to the men in the audience.
I guess it's both. Knowing that in the Philippines, it's commonly the men who leads, not the women. But also not the Muslims, it's the Christian. Mostly, I'm not saying that it should be Christians who will lead, it should be men who will lead, but mostly. Here in the Philippine Women's College of Davao, I guess it's really rare if men, kasi nga Philippine women's, ay so ganun. But okay lang naman po, pero as a part ko kasi sa Muslim, it's really in need na ang lalaki po talaga yung superior, not the women. But right now, siguro it's time for a change na, being fair. If a man can do something, why not the women also do something? Ganun po.
As a woman or for your religion, we're the majority. But have you felt discrimination?
And as a leader, I mean, I haven't felt discrimination actually, but because I think in my experience, we are all treated equally. We are all treated like the men have this kind of capacity that women cannot do, but there are also capacities that women can do that men cannot also do. So I think it's just fair, equal for both of us, both the gender. That's all.
As discrimination against women is a very long story. It's a historical struggle that we continue to face today. Young as I am, I'm aware of the existing stereotypes of women. For example, weak, for example, indecisive. And usually, especially in the Philippines, the idea of leadership is always associated with decisiveness. For example, with concreteness, something as masculine as they try to term it. However, we need to step up and elevate, for example, the condition and situation of women. Try as much as we can to represent women, for example, and take leadership roles, for example, in our schools. And we can try and introduce what women leaders are like. For example, how they can create changes even if they're actually women. And it doesn't have to be wrong to be a woman and a woman leader, ultimately.
I want to go find a male voice. We need a young male leader. come. Please, come on stage. There's a mic right here. And please, you can grab my seat. We need to tell us about your experience.
Hello, hello, hello.
Introduce yourself.
My name is David Abelia. I'm from the Ateneo de Davao University. I'm also a member of ISEC Davao.
And tell us, I mean, we've talked about what's important to our female leaders. What's important to you, and how will you use social media? What power do you have?
Regarding social media, of course, we need, like most of my fellow colleagues or my fellow students said, that we need that our youth to be aware in general. Of course, be open-minded about certain stuff, because we cannot just be closed in our, how do you say, in our own borders. We have to go beyond those borders. Then let the people comprehend, not aside from the situations that are happening here in our beloved homeland, but we have to also understand those situations that happening also abroad. Because some people say, abroad bitaw yan, it's not really affecting my country. Yeah, it will affect our country if something's gonna happen here. Yeah, and how could I do this? We need also the youth to be aware that these elections isn't a joke. It isn't a game. People say, hindi mo dagan sa Duterte. Ay, wala naman si Duterte. Like, of course, all of us love Duterte. We as Davaoenos treat our mayor as if he was our father. But sadly, he's not gonna run. Now, it doesn't mean that, I'm not gonna register because one of my mayor is not going to be in the elections. No, because it is our job as the youth to let us be aware that we are selecting a leader that will run this country, whether you like it or not. Whether the candidates, it could be Binay, Poe, or Rojas. Maybe you don't like 3 of them, but you have no choice but to choose one. Because if you're not gonna register, or if you're not gonna at least vote, you don't have the right to complain. You don't have the right to say something about the country if you didn't even put your right to vote. So yeah, that's more or less how I want the youth to look at social media. Don't get me wrong, you could always enjoy Al-Dub. Al-Dub is like a pleasure time. But we have to also focus on the important things that's going to happen in our country. And like you said, it's our job to correct the mistakes that your generation did in the past. So yeah, thank you.
Questions from the audience? Do you have any before I throw it back to our lady leaders? Because I'm curious to see what you think about elections. What are you going to be working for during the elections? Are you going to be? Is it interesting to you? What's at stake? What's at stake for you in your community? Because with the gap from where we come from, both in our ages, your view is very different. I'm curious, what is at stake for you and your community? And where will you lead the community you lead?
There's a lot at stake, actually, because we're looking at our time in the future. When we vote for the next leader, for example, the next president of our country. So I think the role, more importantly, of the youth in this election is to first of all study and do research of the leaders who are actually daring to run as president for our country. It's important for us not just to know the platforms, for example, or the educational backgrounds of our leaders, but it's important for us to contextualize that these platforms are actually suited or fitting in our community today. So on the ground, we need to assess what we actually demand. For example, what we need as youth today. For example, the representation, empowering the youth So we are looking for leaders who actually have an intention to hear us out as youth, so to represent the youth. Personally, I'm also an advocate for the FOI bill, Freedom of Information Bill. So this is something that I actually try to look for the candidates if they actually support this bill, because if we aren't aware, the bill is considered as a dead bill because it's not been processed for how many years and how many hearings already. So personally, this is something that I want to look for sa ating mga leaders.
For me, I guess how I would let them decide is that we ourselves first know what are the problems here in our country, what we really need, what are the things that must be done. So for that matter, we will really know what kind of leader that we will choose for this coming election. And so I guess that's all. Thank you.
For me, I would like to share this one. Last month, I joined this PAASA Youth Interactive Forum. What I've learned there, one of the students from Baguio College, I guess, she shared about the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems that we have as a youth and as a Filipino citizen is the debt of gratitude, yung utang na loob. Kasi po napapansin natin, there are this politician who did something for us, and then in return, we vote for them, not knowing that they also have their flaws, and not knowing after we vote them, may mangyaring di masama. So what we should think of is, yun nga sabi ni ate, we should think of the situations, the problem we have in the present, and then isipin natin if yung problem na yun, mafi-fix ba ng pipiliin natin? Because the problem that we have here in the Philippines, dapat madala na tayo. We shouldn't choose agad-agad. Kilatisin muna, hindi yung basta-basta lang pumipili. We should always think and not decide ng decide. So I guess right now, it's not easy na diretso-diretso na lang. Kasi in the end, tayo lang man din ang kawawa. So dapat isipin natin na kapakanan din naman natin ang at stake if ever na may decision tayo na gagawin. Yun lang.
Sunstar Davao is the voice of this community as much it's hyper-local and national. What issues, what to you is important for this community? What needs to be addressed, and how are you preparing your community?
Actually, it's more on assuaging the desperation of the people. I mean, we are in a situation wherein both adults and young are really like desperate for something. Actually, that's how we analyze yung clamor for Duterte nga because of lack of ano. But then, if we can only, we know, because of this desperation, we have an idea what we are looking for. So that is what we are working on, how we can consolidate that idea and then push that to the mainstream, that this is what you should look for.
What are you looking for? I'm curious. Meantime, come up to the mic because you need to ask them questions. What are you looking for?
Why is it that they are pushing for Duterte? Why can't they not say, okay, we have 4 candidates anyway, so that is what we are looking for. Why and what is there? And then consolidate it and bring it out and tell the people, you are looking for this, so why don't you look for that? Why don't you vote with, according to what you are looking for?
How strong is Davao as a community, as a whole? How strong are you guys compared to other parts? I'm curious. What do you think?
Kasi akong older. No, from experience, Davao is strong, but so, what can, alam mo yung masaya lang? Until we are pushed, then we push. But otherwise, if it's working, then okay. And then we say we have a very strong idea on what we want, and we ask for it. And since we are given, we are so spoiled. We've had 20 years of being given what we want. So, okay lang, no resistance. So maybe, well, that's one whole generation of being, of getting really the basics that a city needs. But then we really want this to happen. I mean, you know, we're not alone. There's a whole country to worry about.
Questions from the audience? Please, you can go up to the mic, introduce yourself, and then ask the person
Yes.
who.
Anyone with any questions?
Okay. So I will throw the last question to our gentlemen on the panel. If you have a question, please just you can continue it on Twitter. Gender equality has gone the other route on this panel, on this stage. Is there anything we heard from someone of my generation in terms of where Davao is? What's your prognosis of where Davao is now? How strong is this community? Can it act like a block? Can it push the nation forward? Let me give you this.
Like I just want to say we are the fourth safest city in the world. That is basically one of the biggest statements that I could say about our beloved city. We have the liquor ban, we have the no smoking law, we have a speed limit, even though it pisses us off a lot, but at the end of the day, we follow it because we want to show and set an example to our fellow kababayan that it's us, Davao'S. If we can do this in our city, we're expecting the same that you guys do it in your city. Because don't get me wrong, Davao didn't become like this in a snap of a finger. It had to be worked through years and years. And that's what I also say, that if somebody becomes president, don't expect him or her to be able to change this country in only one term, which is 6 years, because you want a miracle to have that happen. But regarding my city, I'm still 21 years old. I still have a lot ahead of me. But what I've noticed here in Davao City is that aside from being the safest city in the world, a lot of people, even especially people from Manila, are saying, I'm actually shocked that I could see a woman walking alone in the streets. That's already a lot. Because if you can walk alone in the streets without even worrying anything, that's already a statement that Davao already showed to the Philippines and to the world. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me call up. Here we go. We'll move ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Maria, and thank you to our panelists. So that gives you an idea on how the youth perceive the different issues, no? How the youth of Davao specifically perceive the different issues in the country, especially in context of the incoming elections. Now, um, we will hear from another expert about how we can use the tools that Maria presented earlier, how we can use the tools like social media for creative leadership in the selfie generation. Our generation has often been called the selfie generation. We like taking pictures, we're vain. But can we twist that? Can we move towards something else? Can we push it for social change? Mr. Alex Arevalo was the Chief Information Officer of the Supreme Court and the Bureau of Customs. He was the Executive Assistant to three presidents of the Philippines. He introduced the use of leading-edge computer satellite and communications technologies in these efforts. He was the Deputy and Executive Official of the Special Action Force. He has an MPA from Harvard University, an MBA from the Asian Institute of Management, and a graduate of the Philippine Military Academy Class 1982, cum laude. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Alex Arevalo. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's showtime!
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That there's just what the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Scientific. These are the things I intend to do to you this afternoon. I'm gonna have my way with you this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
What the world
What we need
needs
right now in the
now
Philippines
is love,
is love.
sweet love. It's the
Corny ba?
only thing that there's just too little love. What the world needs now
We need you,
is love,
leaders
sweet
of
love.
vision and
No,
execution.
not just for some,
The youth who will bring
but
this
for
country
everyone.
to greatness, who have
What the
dreams of
world
having
needs now
a successful country,
is
successful
love,
school,
sweet
community,
love.
because
It's the only thing
you are
that
the
there's
leaders
just
of
too
vision and
little
execution of the
What
future.
the world needs now is
By 2017, this is the prediction of major executives worldwide. "79% said a tape recorder will be extinct. Fax. You still use a fax? Index card. You still see one? PCs will be extinct because we have the shift towards tablets and phablets and phones. Landlines, USB will become extinct because of the cloud. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the youth would like to be reminded that if we do not adapt to the nuances of technology nowadays, we will be part of this species in the Jurassic world of the real world of today. Technology actually provides for the shift towards a more electronic tablet, and in the future, as you know, next month we get to see the release of the new tablet plus keyboard plus pencil. Sing please with me. That's not the way we planned it. That's not the way we planned our lives. The reality of life nowadays is that you cannot predict what happens tomorrow, what happens even next week. And this is actually the reality of life nowadays, both even in the elections and even in our daily lives. Bakit? May nakita ako nagpapaluan doon, oh, mukhang wala silang forever. Pero hindi lahat ng mahina palaging mahina, hindi lahat ng malakas palaging malakas. 'Di ba? Why? Because I have in front of me one of the power centers of this country. And the reason we're here today is because we'd like to see and inspire you and contribute to your generation's success. Change. I think this is where you come in. That you should be able to influence the direction of our country and hopefully a highly upward trajectory.
Nothing stays the same. No, no. Everyone
Diba?
must change.
You insist on using the same procedure, the same system, and expect a more successful result.
Young become the whole.
Let me share with you some of my experiences at the Bureau of Customs when I was Deputy Commissioner for IT and Acting Commissioner. I have imported an assistant. The challenge is actually to stop the business as usual. These are the systems, you don't have to see it, but what is important is the desire to have or to minimize face-to-face transactions. As a president said, aber, ano na lang ang hindi computerized sa custom system na yan. My response, Madam President, parking na lang po. Promise. We had a 500 million peso project, and this was actually at the heart of what we were trying to do. Sabi ng isa, wala pa akong makeup, meron na akong import entry. Meaning they are able to do their import transactions at home 24/7. In using ICT, particularly in any operation, whether in the private sector or public, what we actually intend to do is to find pain points. Where do you get irritated? Where do you get to see inefficiencies? Where do you get disappointed? And where do you get hardships in terms of services? So looking at this as vulnerabilities would actually also be looking at it as opportunities for reform. What we need to do is to relieve the pain points and soothe the pain points. An example is shifting from the old paper filing to electronic filing, providing for visibility. Visibility meaning more people have access to the document and more people have access to the information, and is not limited to only one person who keeps the paper document. The cash and the checks have been stopped for big imports, and we only accept electronic transfer of funds. This actually allows us to properly account for and receive our funds for government. Without inspection, we can actually process a shipment within 19 seconds. In fact, we find and fix the problem, we search and destroy, or in military parlance, we find them, we fix them, and we F them. Example, the daily example of the shift towards automation or the use of ICT is the simple parking. The booth behind that monitor actually used to be manned by a person. That person has been relieved or maybe is out of their job, but this is because a parking ticket, when you go to Shumart or to Robinsons or a mall, has at least 17 data elements: date, time of entry, time of exit, rate, etc., name of security guard at that time. You're familiar with the electronic ticketing of one of the airlines. Yes, this has actually made it very convenient for everyone, and this is actually another potent use of ICT for a service that we have been sometimes or oftentimes frustrated about. In LA, you can actually see on the screen where the bus is along the route. So in the hotel, all you have to do is actually wait and look at the monitor to check if your bus is on the way. This is in Singapore. You see the rod on top? It's actually the sensor. In our malls, we monitor the cars. In Singapore, they monitor the people. When the sensor sense that there are passengers waiting at the waiting shed, this system alerts the taxi company to send taxis in that stand. So while we're doing this with our cars, Singapore is doing it with the people. Another one is that in a country, the taxi actually has a camera, so when you enter as a passenger, you get your picture transmitted to the taxi company instantaneously. This is the kind of reaction you get when you go towards reform. The people you thought who would benefit from your system are the first people who would resist it. Basically because it cuts against their grain, or what they say, the human nature of resistance to change. We had 3 rallies in 3 days. The people in the picket line are both from our internal and our external stakeholders. But you need to dialogue and empathize with them, even if the reform is forthcoming or imminent. Effectively, ladies and gentlemen, the amount of resistance is proportionate to the amount of change. If you have no change, there's no resistance. Small change, small resistance. Medium change, medium resistance. And if you have big change, you have big resistance. Reminder, if you think you're instituting a change and nobody gets angry, nobody resists it, you might want to re-study what you're doing, because maybe the change you thought would be effective is not taking roots. Again, if you think you're doing change and nobody is angry and is up against it, maybe there is no change. Change. When I was still younger, I was at EDSA. We made our investment in terms of putting our lives on the line for change. For us, nowadays, for my daughter, for change, all she has to invest in is maybe getting wet in the rain during a protest, or maybe buying low to be able to send a message for somebody. So for you, I think you have an opportunity to make a difference given the chance, please, the simple request for you to register is a big sacrifice that we will consider enough. As leaders and managers, whether you use technology or not, there is a built-in resistance by people, primarily because it's within their comfort zone. Just like the elephant. Remove the chain and he's still not going to move away because it's in his comfort zone. When using technology, don't look at technology as merely the device or the cell phone. Look at the whole elephant. It's composed of hardware, software, peopleware, maintenance, security, etc. It's an elephant. Again, it's the elephant in the room, ICT. Sometimes there's a need for us to look at what we're doing from another point of view. I call it a frame. A frame of mind, a frame. We have to look at what we're doing in terms of what it is and what not our title is all about. What is my job? As an example, I'd like to cite my having been the executive assistant to the President of the Philippines, 3 of them. As such, I thought I could be the little president. But I identified or reformulated my definition of my job to be that of a glamorized clerk. So instead of looking at myself as the executive assistant to the president, I looked at myself as a glamorized clerk. That was how I defined my job. What service did I really provide, and what was the list of my clients? My service was actually taking care of the documents of the president and the cabinet. Also, my clients were the president, the cabinet, and the public in general. What were my deliverables? Same thing. Accurate documents for the president and cabinet, etc. And this called for a very effective and efficient team. So I also included my subordinates and my staff to be my clients. Effectively, I realized the success of my office depended on how good they were and how effective they were. So we had to provide them with all of the equipment and the motivations to do well in our office. I'd like to also tell you about my dad and my mom. My mom said, I don't like the tabo in the maleta that your dad gives me, and it takes up space. The challenge was, what tabo can I give to my mom that is collapsible? And the tabo looks like this. How can you collapse it? I went around and looked at finally found a collapsible tabo. But what was the learning experience out of this that I'd like to share with you? That sometimes the solution is not so apparent. That the solution is not in the kitchen department or in the toilet department. It was in the kitchen. Okay? So, example, thinking out of the tabo, thinking out of the box. This is the Filipino version. I actually become impatient about the traffic in EDSA. So I sent a memo to Secretary Almendras. I said, why don't we have a traffic clock so that we can predict the travel time? So instead of cursing the dark, so I did something by sending something to them. I heard of the problem of traffic. I wrote them and hopefully realized that if we use Waze and get the average travel time by Waze, we should be effective. We have a problem with the OFW balikbayan boxes. I went to the Commissioner of Customs. I told them, why don't we go develop an apps to be able to track the balikbayan boxes of our countrymen. Effectively, ladies and gentlemen, we see that today we have a lot of opportunities for the use of ICT. It is not mission impossible. Why? Primarily because there are protocols and techniques that we can apply. We can simplify. You could actually do any of this. Reduce or remove the step. You can standardize the procedures. You can harmonize workforce scalability. Start small with a project or is actually in the middle of it. Impacts on you have planned for and won't get worried because it's never going to break. It's highly flexible. Work for interoperability. No matter how that other languages can work on it, and even other countries can actually work on it. Example, for me to be able to work with my system and link with your sound system, I had to have the minimum of this, but actually Pat May saw that I had as many as 50 connectors in my bag. So interconnectivity with systems when you develop is actually also important. Data reusability refers to, I submitted my birth certificate to this department, why will I have to submit it again? I submitted it to Davao, why do I have to submit it in Manila? How many times was I born that I have to resubmit my birth certificate every time? These are the things that maybe you can address when you become a government official. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier, Maria and I were having a quick chat, and one of the things that we realized was that everything we do, there is the importance of looking at the fundamental of ideas before jumping into change. You have to test it, you have to make sure that it works, And then we can actually move towards the fruition of our dream. You don't have to put your life on the line. All you have to do is dream at night, come out with a viable ambition and idea, and push for it and try to reach for it the very next day. Be patient. You still have time. You're still young. But as they say, this country is worth fighting for. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alex. For now, so the point of this program is this is PH Vote Challenge. It's a challenge to you, the youth, on how you will respond in finding the leader that we want and the leaders that our country need. So for now, we will have a response from different universities on how the youth will respond or will take the PH Vote Challenge. We have from UP Mindanao, Miss Sassy Palma. From UIC, Miss Krisha Nismal. From Isaac Ateneo, Rosel Hunsay. And from PWC, Norhaina Darimbang. So please take center stage. Let's give him a round of applause. So how will you respond to the PH Vote Challenge? Who wants to go first?
So I guess for me, it motivated me to, motivate also others to really vote wisely on this coming election and also to exercise our rights to vote and also to choose wisely for the right candidate for a certain position. That's it.
Okay, so as part of ISAC, which is an international youth-run organization, and since we're present all over the Philippines, what ISAC wants to do, or what we plan to do as ISAC, as part of ISAC, is that we're gonna engage more people to take an active part, especially those who are part of ISAC, to actually produce events such as a youth to government forum, wherein the youth can actually engage themselves more and know better about the government or what type of leaders that we need, because we believe that youth should have an engagement with the future leaders, because they cannot just run in the government without actually engaging to the youth, wherein the youth are actually their market, because there's like around 50% of the population of the Philippines is composed of the youth, in which we have to get a conversation with them, in which that is what we want to follow up for Isaac.
My respond, challenge accepted. Well, uh, as what I have learned here, right, today, I will simply extend it to the people, especially to my classmates or especially to my schoolmates back in UIC, and also tell them, to be more involved in all these kinds of stuff, because it's not just for the people who are running, but actually for themselves. So do it, guys.
Okay, so good afternoon. So first, as a response, we are going first to acknowledge our participation as youth in the upcoming election. So we should not take for granted our initiatives as students, as youth, as an individual per se. And in order for that to achieve, we are going to acknowledge also concrete actions like join seminars, vote, let's register for the election in order for us to really exercise our rights to vote.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, thank you. Now, before we close the program, we would like to call on Ms. Irene Santiago, PWC's Supervising Trustee, and Ms. Maria Ressa from Rappler, and Sir Rupert Ambil from MovePH. Rappler signed a partnership, or they will sign a partnership of a memorandum of understanding for the partnership between Rappler and PWC. So, Perry? We can show the document. Yes, so that's the memorandum of understanding. Sir Rupert, Sir Rupert, Sir Rupert, words about the party. Okay, so PwC will be Rappler's official partner. We're planning to have a citizen journalism hub here in Davao. Welcome, yeah, let's give that a round of applause. And all schools are welcome, not only students from PwC, everyone who wants to be part of the movement for the leader that we want. Okay, so that's it for our PH Vote Challenge. Davao's the leader I want. We can continue the conversation in Rap Online. Follow the hashtags PH Vote, hashtag the leader I want, and I am Ace. I'm David Lozada. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Okay. Do you guys want a group picture? Yes, no, maybe. So lahat ng gusto sumali sa group picture we can go here sa stage. Um, Also, it's your last chance to get a 25% discount sa Rappler shop. So if you order online, it's more expensive. So go there now, show them your PH